So welcome to the Joy and Gratitude panel. We are still missing a couple of panelists and we'll let them in as they come, but everyone's time is very, very precious. So we want to get started so that we can finish on time. And just first of all, big hello, thanks for being here. And to Yoli, Michelle, Gertrude, I really appreciate that you're joining again. I'm excited to have this second edition because the first edition, I felt it was really a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I loved doing it. And I had quite a bit of good feedback from those who watched, who joined and who watched the recording. And what was interesting at the end, and I think Gertrude, you had already left because you needed to go, but there was this last question that came up amongst us, a topic where we started to talk about that we've got to protect our joy and gratitude. And I thought that really is something that is worth talking about a little bit more and unpicking it a bit. So we took this as an inspiration to do a second round of this. And so we'll focus on that today. Kim is just joining as well. But before we get into our conversation, our chat, let's introduce ourselves. So last time I forgot to introduce myself even, but yeah, I'm Anne. I'm motherhood coach, NLT practitioner, and founder of Magic Mom Life. And I'm really on a mission to help moms to bring everyday attainable magic to their motherhood experience. And joy and gratitude are very, very big elements of that, because that really what we spoke about last time is how we create happiness, how we find a lot of fulfillment, and all the good stuff comes from it. So that's why I've created this conversation here. And I'll hand over to Yoli because you're right next to me. So just introduce you very quickly what you do.
Hello, I am Yoli. I am a mom of 3, also an herbalist and an empowerment health coach.
Michelle.
Hi everyone, lovely to be here again. I'm Michelle, mum of 2 boys who are 11 and 6, wife to Gary, and holistic life coach for mums, focusing on helping mums find calm and presence and be a fun mum, which we often forget about, and specifically helping mums at the moment, mumpreneurs, with creating that sustainable, flexible work-life balance and reclaiming your time to live life the way you want to live and not be a slave to your business.
I love that. Gertrude.
That's beautiful. Hi, I'm Dr. Gertrude Lyons, and I'm the founder of Rewrite the Mother Code, which is coaching and speaking, I facilitate retreats in Mexico, and I have a podcast, Rewrite the Mother Code. So I support women, because we all mother, but particularly moms with children, to find out what it means to have a transformational experience as we sort through the wiring that we have from our childhoods and culture and emerge from that, creating a mother experience that really truly is our own. So very much in line with everybody and everyone here, and excited to be here again. Thanks, Anne.
Thank you so much. Kim.
Hello. Yes, I'm Kim. I am a mom to 3 boys, and I am a relationship mentor. So I help moms reconnect with their partners. And I love how Michelle used the word fun, because that's a word I've been using a lot recently too, trying to encourage people to have fun in their relationships, because that's what's meant to keep you young at heart and, keep that attraction going, keep that connection. It's that real desire to be together. And that's what we work on.
Love that. Well, thank you very much for being here, everyone. And I just really love this group. Like you said, Gertrude, everything is so aligned and we are so much on the same mission. And I think a lot of moms need us. I just can only say it like that, because it is sometimes or oftentimes quite a tough journey, I would say. But and there's so much we can talk about, but let's come back to the joy and gratitude and the topic that we want to pick up today. And I really want to dive into really just starting to talk about what does it mean to protect our joy and gratitude. And why is that important? Last time we spoke about how we can find it, how we can create it, how we've got to be open to receive it. But what do we mean by protecting? Who wants to go first?
I'll go first then. There's an awkward silence there. And because I spoke into this a little bit in some social media content, actually, I did this morning. So for me, protecting my joy and gratitude is essential to ensure that I can be the best mum I can be. Because I noticed after a lot of soul searching and inner work that there was a correlation between my mood and my children's moods. And when I'm happy, the family is a lot more peaceful, the family home is more harmonious. And when I felt really stressed, even now, if I feel stressed, I notice, I'm very, very aware of it now, and I can snap out of it. Whereas before, it was a bit of, you get into a vicious cycle. So if I was stressed, my children would reflect back to me in their moods, and they wouldn't necessarily say behave. I don't, they weren't behaving badly, but they wouldn't behave in the way I expected of them, which made me more stressed, and they'd bicker and niggle and things. So by making that shift and that mindset of really protecting my joy, making sure that I'm the happiest I can possibly be day in, day out, it just really, it means that we have a really happy family life, and that my children are happy. And I know that this is true because they tell me, like yesterday, my little boy said to me, "Oh, Mum, the sun's coming out now. Look, you're my rainbow." He said, and I was like, "Oh," and they say, "Oh, we love having a happy mum," and there's just lots more cuddles and things, because everyone's just a lot more calm and chilled and living in the moment rather than running around like a headless chicken. So that's what it means for me personally.
I love that. All right. Who else wants to share? Yoli, maybe you're unmuted already. So.
Oh, yeah. It's beautiful, Michelle. I was, I agree with what Michelle said. The mindset, that's important, because I was thinking, at times when we find ourselves like we're in a good mood, and then something happens, and then that could, switch. And we have to really make an effort to, practice also to catch ourselves, not to go the other direction, and to just, keep the momentum going. And, it's all about the mindset, and making an effort. Like, like I said before in the first session, finding joy, I find, I have to make an effort for that. Just the same, to keep that momentum. It's, I find it's the same as well. Yeah. And it's so much easier to, fall into the trap of, that negative, or letting, it could be someone, it could be an event, interrupting that momentum that we're already on, that we work so hard to be on, so yeah, we get to keep that, that joy that, that we're finding, and stay with it. Yeah. And dance with it.
Yes. Have fun.
Yes.
I love that. I'll go because I'm loving these responses, and something you said, Michelle, sparked for me, that saying, if mama isn't happy, then nobody's happy. I don't know, it's said a number of different ways, but I think I really believe that's true. And I think we lead in the family in that way, and our atmosphere permeates and whatnot. But I was also thinking about the question, or the statement, protect your joy and gratitude as also my responsibility, right? Which I think we're both, Michelle and Yoli, were saying, it's my responsibility, which can then mean, having to really realize that I deserve the joy and the joy that is available to me, but that I'm also responsible in creating it. And that may mean, setting things up or having standards or having things the way I want it in my house. That was something I worked on a lot, with my daughters, that like, yeah, if I'm happy and then you get to be happy, sort of thing, right? Like it's a result of my happiness that you contribute to. And, when we have agreements or, ways that we operate here and we're not following them, that doesn't make me happy. And, so you might not get happy mom at that time. And that's okay. Right. To, I think really honor that part that values our space, my space as a mom, and has a right to that, and has a right to have the household support that also, like just how mutual it all is. And because it's definitely possible, and sometimes there's some barriers to whether it's our deserving or just not really sure how, to create it, or it's challenging to set up systems, in our home that create that level of flow and fluidity, and everybody knows what's expected, and we follow it. And I think sometimes it's a little concrete, but it leads to joy, and it leads to, and I definitely want to protect that, for myself. And sometimes my joy may mean time to myself, and I need to protect that, right? I need to protect the times that don't include my family, for my rest, nourishment, whatever that is. So those are a few of the things that were coming up for me as we're exploring this, because I think it's so important.
Love it.
Yep. And, even as you were saying that part about, protecting even that little pocket of time that you might take for yourself, I'm so attached to that idea as well. And it doesn't have to be, I'm not saying leave me alone for 2 hours, but it can literally be, I just need these 5 minutes, these 10 minutes of quiet. I'll answer your question in a while. I'll go get your snack in a bit, but you're going to get a really calm mom who is going to be able to have a joke with you and listen to you uninterrupted if you just give me these 10 minutes. And I think there's nothing wrong with asking for it. Our children are getting older, and they get used to that. And I think what we're also kind of teaching them at that point too is that sometimes people need a little chance to reset. And it's okay. And it's something that they can be respectful of as well. And they see the benefits. As you said, happy mom, happy family. So they'll get the picture.
I love all your answers. Thank you. So for me, really, I've also been thinking about it quite a bit, but today I've been recording some content for, I'm doing a guilt-free challenge at the moment. So I've been recording some videos for that, and have been talking about the guilt. And Gertrude, what you mentioned a little bit of the system and the culture and the way that we are as moms often expected to self-sacrifice and to put our needs behind everyone else's needs. And personally, when I started changing that, and when I started to protect my space, my time, my joy, I felt a lot of guilt. But I also had quite a few challenges in terms of the family receiving these changes. And that's where, for me, is a lot of the protection of, like, being sure that this is good for me and this is right for me and I deserve it. And it's consequently good for the family, like what you said, happy mom, happy family. But that really was, for me, that came up, the protection of, like, being aware that it might not always be well received, that we need and want, and that we stand up for these kind of things. And there could be the guilt, but there could also just be some challenges that we face with our children, that they won't respect those boundaries, or our partners, that they won't get, like, why does she have to, I don't know, like I do horse riding. And my husband always is a bit like, oh, why would you want to take 2 hours in the morning? And like, like, well, because it does something really good for me. I come back with the best feeling and best energy I can think about, and that I keep that for days. So I need to protect that. And that really came up for me. I'm just letting Barbara in. She's here now. I'm glad she's joining us. So
and
yeah.
can I add just something real quick when you said that about when I, want to bring something like, having some alone time or what I'm expecting, and it's not always well received. Something that I started doing and then coaching people on it, because it was very helpful, was to tell them that the game is changing, to actually like let them know, like, I've kind of for an example, haven't expected you to hang up your coat when you get in. Well, that is changing. And now I do expect that. And I'll give you a couple tries, you can kind of do it how you want, but whether it's alone time or something, you want them to help with, or that I find if you haven't had the expectation, but now you want it, is to, really notify them, give them notice that this has happened.
Yeah. And then being committed to it as well, because that was another thing I realized too. When I was fully committed to my decision, the opposition could appear, but it wasn't something that I would internalize at that point. This is how it is. And I wouldn't escalate an argument or a disagreement, because there's nothing to argue about. This is what is happening. This is what needs to happen.
So true. Yeah, sometimes we don't need to explain why we do things and why these things are important to us. It's just really, protecting, like this is the topic. We feel it's right, it's important, and that's it. Now everyone else has to live with it, because at the end of the day, we don't do anything that's bad for anyone. I mean, that's usually moms don't do that kind of thing, so. That's
it. We've made a decision that actually is having a positive impact on everyone. This is not me being selfish about, me pursuing something that's going to hurt somebody else in the family. So we're all going to benefit.
Exactly. Love that. All right. So what else did I want to ask? Let me see. Let's see my notes, because I think we already combined 2 questions in one now. Yeah, I was curious, because if someone is listening here now and they're seeing like, okay, these ladies, they do the things that are important to them. They take time for themselves. They prioritize. I mean, Kim, you can speak about that. Relationships, maybe even over the children. They have their businesses. They get in calls, and the kids have to stay outside of the room and that kind of thing. And someone might be listening and be like, I think I need some protection here. So what can they do, or where would you say they should start? What would be tips you can give them in practical sense of like, how can we really start protecting our joy and gratitude?
Okay, I'll just give one of the tips that I particularly found useful, and that was to get very clear on how I wanted my day to run, because there were certain tasks that I realized were non-negotiable for a successful business. And of course, there are certain tasks that are non-negotiable for a functioning household. The dishes really do not wash themselves, and we need a clean sink so we can put more dirty dishes into the sink. But, getting to that point where I would have my non-negotiable tasks, and then these are the things that would have to get done on a daily basis. But then I would have no guilt about saying, oh, I'm not working on my business, and I'm making lunch when I should be working on my business. No, this is now lunch preparation time. Or I should be sitting playing with my children instead of being on a phone call. No, this is work time. And I got really clear on which time belonged to which part of my life. So there was no more guilt about it. And then, of course, as Gertrude was saying, when things start to change, you inform everybody else that these are the changes that are happening. This is how things are going to be moving forward. And it made a huge difference. Mommy is not available between 9 and 12. but we're going to have lunch together.
Yeah.
And that, that helps a lot.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's the managing expectations and the firm boundaries. And I've always been a mum, and my husband as well, a dad, who likes to tell the boys as it is. So there's no surprises, nasty or otherwise. I mean, obviously, if it's a nice surprise, we'll tell them you've got a nice surprise coming, but just so they know exactly what to expect. Because I think that children tend, when they don't know the lay of the land, say for example they're walking into the classroom on the first day on a new school year, and they don't know where they're supposed to put their coat, where they're supposed to put their book bag or their water bottle, whatever. But if you tell them exactly, right, well, your coat needs to go on the peg just outside the classroom door, and your book bag goes in that box over there, and if you tell them exactly what's going on, then that can really help with the boundaries, the expectations, and the general mood. And I also find that by drip feeding the expectations as well, like what I expect of them. So for example, if I need to do the washing now, but I can get it done a lot quicker and I can go and watch a film with you or something afterwards if you help me pair these socks. and it's slowly, and my husband as well, been slowly kind of increasing the level of expectation on what we would like the boys to help with, so we can protect that family time and the fun bits together. And my husband and I are very good at working as a team on that as well, which is really helpful. So yeah, that's a big tip. But one thing I'd like to talk into as well is somebody needing to protect their joy and gratitude. Where should they start? My biggest tip would be at the very beginning of the day, as soon as the alarm goes off, you open or maybe even before you've opened your eyes, ask yourself, how do I want to feel today? And this is something I've got in the habit, and it takes 2 seconds. And a thought will drop into my head like, fun mum, or I want to be curious today. So, what does curious mean to me? How can I be more fun today? And I just remind myself of that. I check in with myself at various points in the day, like, okay, have I achieved that initial thought of the day? Have I achieved how I wanted to feel? Because nobody wakes up and says, I want to be miserable. It just kind of happens because you've had a late night, or you feel a bit stressed about the coming day, or you're wondering how you're going to get through the day. So yeah, how do I want to feel today? Always works for me.
Love that.
Yeah. I love that, Michelle. I do the same thing. That's a practice of mine in the morning. But Kim, I love what you were saying as well. Just making sure that they know that, this is your time, and not to, like, for instance, my children, sometimes they'll take it up on themselves. I'm a, single mom, twins, 15-year-olds, and they'll take it up on themselves to make decisions. Or I'm going to stay after school and play with my friends, play, soccer or basketball, whatever. And then, but meanwhile, I already had something going. So don't throw these surprises at me. And I'll tell them, respect my time. Respect my time. So I find that I have to, remind them of that. But I'm seeing now they're beginning to get it, because when I say that, I mean it, because I don't go back. So that if you take it upon yourself to go over somebody's house, your friend's house, or stay after school, then you're going to have to find your own ride home. Because, I might be in a Zoom and I already have, something planned, because I work on my business. I have specific times, that I work on my business that I cannot just get up and leave. So I stress that out to them, respect my time, because I'm committed to what you are doing. That's important. Whether it's, your practice, your games, I know what I'm committed to. But, you know, the other stuff that you want to do on the sides, okay, if it's on my time, then I'm sorry.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, it just, while you're saying that, comes to mind that I've been also having quite a few conversations with my boys like that, what they want, and that, you know, that also that I have some things that they need to respect because I respect them. To make sure they get to tennis, basketball, whatever, or I buy them Pokemon cards, which are the big thing at the moment. But, you know, it's always like I try to explain to them, okay, you want these Pokemon cards, but, you know, what about these things and what about that? And I mean, my little one is 3, and I'm not a big fan of bribing, but I had this like work call the other day, and I literally said, like, you know, you've been going on about your Pokemon cards. I'll be happy to buy them, but I really need you to stay downstairs with grandma, because at the moment he's extremely clingy and he doesn't want to stay with anyone but mom. But I think like having these conversations and explaining that, you know, in that moment, work was what was more important to me, because, you know, it generates income and it allows me to stay at home with them so that I can be there and I don't have to arrive late for dinner like that, because dad goes to the office. But that means that sometimes I've got to make phone calls in the day when they're at home and so on. So I think these like kind of explaining to them why what's important, especially when they're young. I mean, I guess that changes when they get a bit older. But for me personally, also, when I started this whole journey of, you know, oh, my internet is in, yeah, I hope you can hear me okay, of, you know, like understanding myself better and prioritizing myself and all of that. I was in a place where I had no clue what I enjoyed, what I wanted to do, because everything was motherhood or work. That was all I knew. There was no leisure, there was no fun apart from with the kids, you know. And so I really had to rediscover what brings joy to me and what are my energy gainers. So like this horse riding, for example, I mean, this is, it just gives me so much energy. Or my beach walks in the morning after dropping the little one to nursery. It took me a while to get into the habit, but because I really told myself, okay, this is, yes, there's 5 million things I have to do for work and in the house, and there's always something more to do, but I'll have to take these 20 minutes, go to the beach, because I come back energized and with so much more, with much better mood, and I'll be much more productive in that sense. But it took me quite a while to understand that, because I was so much in like doing, getting stuff done, achieving, hitting the goals, you know, producing, doing. So it was quite hard. And I have lovely friends like Michelle who are so good at these kind of things. And then I look like from the internet, from the outside in, you're like, oh gosh, she does the meditation and the yoga. And you're like, well, I get to at least walk on the beach. But, you know, like it's, yeah, I think everyone starts on a different place. And for me, that was actually really quite tough, to get to a place where I really know what these things do to me and why I should prioritize them, and why should I, you know, yeah, put a boundary about it, around it, and, you know, put up with some distress or discomfort because someone else might not quite like it, you know. Yeah, that would be my tips.
Can I talk into something that you've just said though? Because have you heard of that quotation, comparison is the thief of joy?
Oh yes.
So yeah, so I mean, that is, one crucial thing is to not compare yourself to others, and which is a really hard lesson. It's a really hard thing, but again, it's a commitment to decide, I'm not going to compare myself and I'm on my own journey. Yeah, because yes, I do yoga and I do dance and whatever, but I don't do it every day. This morning I didn't do any yoga, or yesterday. I couldn't be bothered. But I did do some work in bed, and I just do different stuff every day. And that's the thing, what you see on social media isn't the gospel. It's, you know, things are interchangeable.
Oh yeah.
According to how you feel, which is what I've just, you know, just said. So yeah, so that would be an important one for somebody who's feeling like they need to find more joy.
Right. I'll add something I was thinking about, because I obviously agree, and I want to underline everything everyone has been saying. And I think sometimes as moms, we can get overwhelmed with all the things that we want to be different or doing, or, and adding in, and it, or how we want, our kids to support us. So like one thing immediately is to decide to pick one, right? To pick one that you're going to go for. And that one may seem kind of simple, but if you pick the one, there's going to be a lot of parts to it. Like, for example, I worked with a mom who she decided that she wanted a morning. Her kids were school age, so she wanted her mornings to getting them ready, getting them out the door, to be nourishing, seamless, to flow. Because at that moment they were hectic and nobody listened, and they were either late and that craziness of that transition. So she declared, and she let them all know that this was what was going to be happening and the goal that we were going for. But then you realize there were a lot of pieces to that. So then I think we need to have compassion and actually like see it like a little project. And, I worked with a cognitive coach for a while, because sometimes we have this like kind of big thing, like a morning that I'm satisfied with that has so many parts and pieces to it, so many steps to have that from, pre-waking up on through them actually out the door, then to realize, and see it as a pretty big project. But our brain can't process the bigness of it. It needs it needs to thin slice it. And, it took her 2 years to have her ideal morning. And I think sometimes we don't give ourselves that space. There were a lot of little celebrations along the way, to get to the, like, this was it, like, this is the morning. So, not giving up hope, but understanding that to have that one big thing, there are going to be a lot of, steps, and pieces to make that happen. And I think, sometimes for me, that was always really helpful. Like, some things take time, new habits, we've been doing it this way for maybe a year. So why do I think I'm just going to be able to tell them I want it differently? And it's supposed to happen. Right. And I'm a big fan of rewards and consequences, and I like to call it that versus bribery. But if they're clear, and then eventually, once it's like, if making the bed is part of it or brushing your teeth, they don't always get a reward for it, but until the habit is there, I think they can be used, pretty wisely. So I think, in that, there's the stating the big thing, or this, really being clear what it is that you want, and then letting everyone know, and then realizing that there's going to be, to really unpack it, write out like what's everything that's in a morning, and then have some patience and compassion for it and consistency. I think you said that, Kim, like, you really do need the intention and to commit to it, and mean business with it, but it can still take time.
I agree with you, Gertrude. We do have to, we get to apply self-compassion, new habits, and realize that, they take time, and be patient, and just keep implementing, daily, little at a time, whatever it takes, but always remember that, to apply self-compassion and be patient. Yeah. That's part of that is part of the self-care and self-love.
It's interesting. If I can jump in a little bit, I apologize for being late. I'm in an empty room. Does it echo?
Not too bad.
Hi, Barbara.
All righty. So I like everything. I'm sitting here like nodding my head. I'm so excited about it's all part of the journey. Michelle, you were talking about how does it make you feel? And I'm like, that was the game changer for me. Do I want to feel like this? Gertrude, you're talking about like what your ideal morning looks like. To really start leaning into like, do I want to feel this way? And then stepping back and just watching how you're interacting, because if we have the genuine where we want to feel a certain way, we're going to say the same thing much differently. Like when we're interacting with our kids, when we're asking them for help from something, or we're going to ask it differently based on how we want to feel versus reacting. I know, Kim, you're talking about relationships. Like there's this whole piece for me. I started to really want to feel inspired. Prime example, I had a linen closet. I'd moved into a new house, had been there 3 years, and I wanted to sort the 2 linen closets. It was COVID. It was probably, I don't know, 6 weeks into the pandemic, and I still hadn't sorted the linen closet. One day I woke up inspired, and it was done in an hour, literally done in an hour. So there's this piece when we say, how do we want to feel? Like, what inspires me today? Gertrude, you were talking about the one thing. For many of us, we don't even know what's going to give us joy and gratitude. Like, where do you start? Like, I went to a therapist and she's like, what do you want to say yes to? And what do you want to say no to? And I'm like, I don't even know how to say that. Right? Yeah, Kim, I'm like, how do you start that part of the journey? And Yoli, you're working with 2 teenagers who are, I mean, I've got a teen at home too. Like, we're working with these teenagers and we're modeling behavior to them that isn't necessarily what we want to be modeling. So this whole piece of, and you've got it with your little ones, when we let go of expectation and we bring in inspiration, it changes everything, because all of a sudden we're seeing different things. And when we can witness, watch how we're interacting, like what is our role in creating the non-ideal morning? Because we create it, right? It's that whole process if we're creating something we don't like or creating something we do like. So those are the things, like for me, if I'm inspired now, I can get stuff done in no time. But my list of things to do, it's going to wait. I don't know. It's like that whole, and you were talking about like setting your boundaries. Is there agreements that we can interact with our kids? Like, here, let's have an agreement. Like, what is your side and what is my side? And let's agree, because that always engages them. Now, sometimes they're in this, we taught them maybe not to know what they want. You know, that's that whole learning process. So, you know, from a place of inspiration, every day at the end of the day, I always ask the family, like, what was a high point of your day? You know, we can start getting into those words that are harder to pinpoint, like what inspired you today? So I love Michelle, Kim, Yoli, Gertrude, and I love what we're all saying. And I just love when we come together, because I'm like, oh, that's right. Because we get farther along in the journey and then we forget where we started this journey. And this is just beautiful. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I love looking back at what I've achieved and how far. And I think that's a very, very important part of the process. I agree with that. It's I've just been doing a bit of work the last few days, looking back over how far I've come just this last, I don't know, 3 months, year. And definitely since what I've achieved since the last 10 years, within the last 10 years, it's just insane. But you get to a point and you think, well, I really want that. And I've got no idea how I'm ever going to achieve that. And it is those bite-sized pieces, the aligned actions, just slowly chip, chip, chip. And that is what makes a massive impact. So then you can look back and go, wow, I did it. It's amazing.
Yeah, so many nuggets here. Yeah.
I love.
Go ahead.
I love what Barbara said. Let go of expectations and invite the inspiration. And it's, you know, it makes sense, because sometimes we tend to put so much, you know, high expectation on ourselves. And it, you know, it stands in the way of joy that we want to have, because the expectation is so high. So we you know, we have to learn to let go of that and just, you know, invite the inspirations and, you know, let go of the expectations. Like Barbara said, I love that. It's true.
I have another saying, and it's not that I'm a fatalist, but it's the let go piece. Everything happens perfectly, good, bad, or otherwise. When you say that, it's gone to like, because we think that whatever just happened in the moment is going to change my life. It's going to wreck things. It's going to be awful. Everything happens perfectly, good, bad, or otherwise. That's just, and then you let it go and you're on to the next, because better things lie ahead, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Nothing is ever constant. Situations are always changing.
Yeah,
It is.
that's what I was thinking when we were talking about those little steps, and that it took Gertrude, your client, 2 years to achieve that. And like the expectation again, like expecting that perfect morning, expecting that perfect routine, you know, your perfect day, the time that all the time you want to spend on, I don't know, creativity, inspiration, whatever. But also to just realize that it all starts also with trying things out, to be curious, to see, you know, okay, someone is telling me this, you know, or Michelle is doing that. I've seen it on the internet. I'm going to try it out. It might work for me, but it might not work for me. Or it might not work for me in the morning, but it could maybe work somehow in midday because the kids are doing whatever. Like, I think it's really just being open or trying, and not to give up so easily. So like what you said, Gertrude, like sometimes you want it to happen just right now. We make the decision, we're going to announce it, and now it should happen. Well, in reality, it sometimes takes time. And again, nothing is constant. I mean, especially when kids are small, they go through phases. Moms, we know that. There's a phase, everything, you know, you think you have figured it out, and suddenly something comes around the corner and you start from zero and you're like, what the heck? What just happened? Everything was fine a week ago. But I think it's like to realize that this also applies to the changes we're trying to make, the habits we're trying to create. Not what works for Yoli necessarily works for me, etc., etc. And what works now we're in April might not work in December in the context of the family. So yeah, that's the thought I've been having when I was listening to all of you. But I love all these nuggets. Yeah,
That's so true, and it does change. You know, there are certain fundamentals we might be able to hold on to and carry them into each season, but at the same time, it's that idea again, Barbara, of I call it letting go of the control, or letting go of that, you know, we have this thought in our mind that we have control, but that's just it. It's not real, you know, but we've told ourselves I have control over this. No, you don't. And you have to be willing to let it go and come and go and come. And then what you do have control over is how you think about it, how you react to it. And that's what we do. And also, Barbara, I just want to say quickly, thank you for that reminder about the things that we forget. You know, the things, sometimes it's the basics that we mastered and we saw the results, and then we kind of just go off into enjoying the results, and then we realize something's not working. What is not working? What is not working? Oh, right. I forgot. I forgot I don't work after 9 p.m. That's why I can't wake up in the morning. That's why I'm not getting my morning exercise in anymore. Just like, remember, it's constant. We're a work in progress.
Yeah, okay. That's
My
true.
2 favorite words at the moment are evolution and improvisation. Is that constant surrender, like you say, Kim, the surrender of releasing control and surrendering to the situation. And motherhood is just a complete improvisation, I think, because there are, like you said, Gertrude, there's just so many cogs going all the time that are completely out of our control. You know, we can't control other people. And when we realize that, everything gets easier. And that's, you know, really good way to protect your joy, is to go with the flow more. That's how I've been doing it recently. The school Easter holidays, perfect example. Juggling the work, juggling being a mum, putting those boundaries in place, managing expectations, having segmented time for different things. If something didn't go to plan because my son's had hurt himself or something, you know, okay, I have to deal with this now. The work can wait. Whatever can wait, you know. It's and just reprioritizing constantly. And yeah, that's really worked for me well.
Yeah.
But as you're saying that, Michelle, when we're inspired, we can do a month's work of work in 2 hours.
Yeah.
So that's that whole piece. If we let go of the expectation and wait for the perfect timing, then what you thought you were going to get done, you might be able to get done in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Agreed.
and that makes me think
Timing.
just now. Sorry, it just makes me think of we spoke about it, Barbara, as well. Sometimes to just step away, slow down, to kind of regroup, and then, you know, start fresh. You know, I mean, this applies in business, but I think also in general life, if there's a mom listening who's, you know, staying at home, or she's got an office job or whatever, if things feel hard, sometimes to just step away a little bit, letting go again of all the things that are happening, and to take a breath and then just come back with a different point of view, because often we're so much in the grind that we don't even see the other options, the other things that we could maybe, that one little thing that we could change and that could make things easier. We don't see it because we're so much in the problem as well. Like you said, Kim, like we're focusing on what's maybe not working instead of focusing on what's working and how we can build on that. So yeah, that's quite important as well.
When I was working in an office, and even now I work from home, actually, I find that if I'm struggling with something, the best tactic for me is just to go and make myself coffee or go to the bathroom. And then I just find, ding, I get the solution. The download comes. Works every time.
Yeah.
Well, and we've talked about this too. You're right, Michelle. Some of the best ideas come from the bathroom trips. And we've talked about this not from a flippant perspective, but looking for the gift in the challenges. And Gertrude, it sounds like with the work that you're doing too, and Kim, you talk about this all the time. And holy, we need to reconnect. It's been a little while. But looking for the gift in the challenges, like it's not flippant, and trying to help women understand that. So I'll use an example. This morning we had literally a 10-car pileup on our bridge, which caused a traffic backup, which is crazy. But the gift in that is I had more time and I could breathe through it. So instead of that expectation piece, and your phone went in the sink water, and I said to you from a gentle place, like, is there a gift in this?
Yeah, there's always a gift somehow. You might not see it immediately. It might take a little while to get clearer, might see it only in hindsight, but somehow there's always a little gift waiting. Yeah, so true. Yeah.
And I think we've said this. I just was feeling inspired by what everyone's saying, and that aspect of celebrating. You know, when I talked about, and I mentioned that when I talked about the woman who, you know, took the 2 years, you know, but celebrating the small steps, and both with ourselves and with those that we've asked new things of, you know, because I know I can get in those modes where it's like I'm only letting them know what's not working, or letting myself know, you know, and looking at the things that aren't happening yet, or even what, you know, you were saying, Anne, like, oh, I'm not doing that, or I'm comparing myself. But that when we do it, to really take those moments, I think it protects it. It also builds on the joy and the gratitude to celebrate the small steps. Because, you know, if I waited, or this woman waited till she had that day, like, you'd probably give up. Yeah, I mean, you'd give up, right? Like, that would be way too long to wait. And you know, this honoring of the little wins, and, you know, and acknowledging them to ourselves, but then to other people. I do that a lot with my husband, when he does that thing that I've been wanting him to do, and been at it for a while, and then he does, and we kind of joke, because I'm like, I really like that you did that, and he'll say like, okay, I guess I'll stop doing it. You know, I mean, it's like, you know, but just, it's sweet, you know, but that acknowledgement, it's like, okay, let's really focus on that positive and build on it. I think really goes a long way in protecting our joy and gratitude.
Yes, it does, because like for this month, I entered this challenge at where I go for hot yoga, because before, the most I could do is just the weekends, Saturday and Sundays. And then, you know what? I said, I'm going to do this challenge and try to, because there were different options. I picked 3 times a week. So that's a challenge for me. But, and the first week I did it. I did the 3 times. And then the second week, the 4 times. So, you know, I celebrated myself for doing that, because it might not be big for, you know, for someone, but it was, and, you know, that was big for me. And I got to go in and just giving myself that me time, which I love. And it made me happy. It gave me joy. So yeah, I celebrated myself for that. I pat myself on the back, and I even made a post about it.
Absolutely.
Yay, Yoli. Woohoo.
Yeah.
Love that. Brilliant.
All right. Well, I know a few of us have to hop off. So I think, yeah, we're almost at the hour. Any last thoughts you want to share before we, wrap it up for today?
Oh, I'm so grateful for these talks and all you beautiful, powerful ladies. And I appreciate being here with all of you. It just brings the joy. It does. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll second that.
We all in different parts of the world, but yet look at the beautiful connection we're having. So I'm grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anne.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it's a good reminder to me of, because I kind of jam my day, like one thing after another, and I'm like, why did I do that? And it's and to stop and remember ahead of time, like, no, I enjoyed being with the women last time, and I know I will, and just my own like shift, and of course I have again, and I really appreciate you bringing this together, Anne, and that I got to spend time with you women again. It's been really very nourishing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gertrude. I think that's exactly that.
Yeah.
Same for me.
That.
Totally.
Nourishing. I like that.
Well, it does. I think sometimes just being with other like women, because I talk about this with women. Sometimes we need to change our tribe a little bit, and it's fabulous to be around people that are in similar places, a little bit ahead, a little bit behind. It's fabulous to come together, because now I'm actually more energized too, because it's like, oh, right. Yeah, this is why we do this. I have goosebumps, so thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate everyone. And I, again, learned something, which I think is also amazing when we come together and we share different thoughts, different experiences. And even just reminding ourselves of these things, because they can slip our mind, because we're just humans as well. Even if we are women who teach other women how to do these things, I always personally take something away, because there's just so much that we can always learn and remind ourselves, because life is life, and humans, we forget, and we try something and it just sometimes doesn't stick, to be honest. And but yeah, I really appreciate you being here again. Thank you so much. We'll do another one at some point, I think, because I think the energy is just lovely and nourishing. I mean, all the things you said, just Yoli, Gertrude, now, like, this is exactly what I envisioned, and this is why I wanted to bring this group together. And I'm really, really grateful that you are sharing that with me and that you're here with me. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was wondering if Josephine's got any questions. Have you got any questions as you've been sat listening?
Yeah, no, I've been writing down some tips, and then obviously running off to parent, because I'm on my own tonight. My husband goes out on a Thursday, and I've got twin boys, like you only there, 12 and a 6-year-old. So anyway, yeah, so I've been breaking up fights and dealing with 6-year-old stuff as well. Yeah, no, just that protecting our joy and gratitude, because I know how to seek it and how to kind of attain it, but not necessarily protect it. I think it's very easy to write lists of things I need to be doing or I could be doing, but also there are things that I can be considering protecting around the things that I already have carved out, and where I have achieved, but you forget your attainments as well as a mother. I think you forget, oh well, I did that, I got through the sleepless nights, I got through that, because you then facing the next challenge, it's almost like you don't kind of consolidate being joyful and grateful as well around the journey and the surrendering that was talked about earlier. But yeah, I love that. How do I want to feel today? Particularly when you wake up really, really tired. And I ran a fatigue workshop. I work with people with Parkinson's and cancer, and I kind of wish I'd had that yesterday, because how do you want to feel today? Because if you wake up with real tiredness, you can get into this sort of perpetual cycle of I'm just exhausted and then I'm going to ruin my day and da 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 da. But yeah, how do I want to feel today? Really lovely. Energy gainers I've written down. Let go of the expectation and move to inspiration, like harnessing those moments where you can get something done in half an hour that you put off for years, and the gift in the challenge. So that's, yeah, so I've not got any questions. That's more of a sort of summary, but yeah, what a lovely group to have been able to listening to you chat and talk about things is really helpful. Thank you.
That's a lovely summary. Really lovely summary. Thanks for joining us.
Yes, absolutely, Josephine. It's good. I saw the little one in the screen, and you're absolutely working both at the same time. So I just want to send a hug to you, and just grateful that you could be here.
Mm-hmm. All right, ladies. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for being here.
Love you, Anne. This is awesome. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.